Part 75. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 743. There are almost no adults above the age of 18 who are below the Divine Seal realm. There really is none. I remember that at the time of the origin of the Divine Sect, around the age of 18, he was at the peak of the Holy Body realm, already at the level of the Holy Sun. The Divine realm was really exaggerated. He had swept through thousands of people, and almost all of them had surpassed the Holy Body realm as long as they were teenagers and above. Some children are clearly only 7 or 8 years old, and they are already walking like flying, as if they are peerless masters. Ling Ding is only 1 year old and can jump up and down, killing tigers and lions with ease. She is very special in the origin continent, but here in God's domain, there are quite a few who are already at the peak of the martial life realm at the age of 2 or 3, and have already set their totems at 9 o'clock. Zhang Zizai's scalp was numb when he saw it. The divine realm and the central totem world were indeed not the same concept. He looked around and found some powerful young people, about his age, who were in the first god realm like Chu Chen. There were very few people over 30 who had not yet reached the first god realm. If they reached the middle school, Nian was still in the Tianyuan realm, basically at the peerless waste level. So, people in the god's domain can at least become demigods in this life. After all, the cultivation conditions here are really good. They are born with totems. The age of 18 actually means they have practiced for 18 years. Someone like me has practiced for 3 or 4 years. There is definitely a huge advantage over the years. But truly becoming a god is the dividing line between ordinary people and extraordinary beings. At least Zhang Zizai couldn't tell who the ancient god was at a glance, but he was sure that at least there were not many thousands of people within his field of vision. But the existence of gods among thousands of people is already very shocking. It's really a place where strong people are as numerous as dogs. God's domain, God's world, is not 10,000 times stronger than the origin continent. In fact, it is not normal. In the totem world, many young people and old people are struggling in the well of God's realm. They want to get a chance to enter God's realm. How do they know that if they were born in God's realm, everything will be easy, and there is no need to live among the trillions of people? Earning a spot among them takes a lifetime of energy. So, how can heaven and earth be fair? Zhang Zizai smiled helplessly. He felt it was unfair, but he was not discouraged because even if he was from a lowly background, he at least had a chance to work hard. But he knew a fact. There are too many people who can kill me in God's domain. This is not the origin continent, and I am not its overlord. I'm afraid everything will have to start all over again. To start over again, you need to let go. Put down your self-esteem, put down your pride, and face the battle. From the first step into the White Emperor city, his will has been very firm. Through the conversations of people outside, he heard that the name of the city is Beatty City. It is said that the name of the city lord who controls this place is Bai Emperor, and he is a top ancient god. Zhang Zizai also heard, this person called White Emperor is a member of the God King Palace. Beatty City belongs to the 5 Emperors dynasty. In the divine realm, as well as in the mortal world, major dynasties have been established. There are hundreds of divided dynasties, occupying the main livable territory of all the divine realms. However, these dynasties are not the same as the Tianlong Holy Dynasty. They only rule the mortal world, but they do not have much power themselves. The real power is the power behind each dynasty, such as the 5 Emperors dynasty where Beatty City is located. The backing is the God King's Palace. The 5 Emperors dynasty is one of the dynasties in the Divine King's Palace. It provides talents and resources to the Divine King's Palace. The Divine King's Palace protects the dynasty. In fact, many of the emperors, princes, ministers, and generals of the dynasty are members of the Divine King's Palace. So, the dynasties that rule the mortal world are actually subordinate forces of these sections. This is different from the relationship between Shenzong and other dynasties. Shenzong cannot rule dynasties other than the Holy Dynasty, but purely absorbs talents. The emperors of the major dynasties, not from Shenzong. Generally, top powers have many dynasties as their foundations. For example, the Divine King Palace has more than 20 dynasties as its foundation, and the territory of one dynasty here is more than 10 times that of the Tianlong Holy Dynasty. The area is 10 times, but the level of the people in the dynasty is countless times higher. For example, the Five Emperors Dynasty and the Tianlong Holy Dynasty are not the same concept at all. These are all summed up by Zhang Zizhe from People's Discussions. The important figures in the Five Emperors Dynasties basically all have the identity of the God King's Palace, so each dynasty is basically equivalent to the branch of the God's King's Palace that governs all living beings. For example, the Lord of Beatty City, Baidi, is directly affiliated to the God's Palace, the King's Palace. And they will also work hard to send their children to the God King's Palace. To put it this way, although the number of people in the God King Palace is not large, they are the most elite group of people. In terms of scale, it is also terrifyingly large. Zhang Zizhe had a little understanding of the outline of the entire divine realm, and it had to be said that he was actually very shocked. The divine realm is bigger and more magnificent than he imagined, and the people in it are more powerful than he imagined. In the entire Five Emperors Dynasty, there are only more than 20 people from the God King's Palace. But they are basically the strongest people in the dynasty. They are basically ancient gods and talented people. And the God King's Palace itself has also cultivated a lot in the Five Emperors Dynasty. If you can enter the God King's Palace, you will truly reach the sky in one step and become famous all over the world. Even if you don't enter the God King's Palace and serve in the Imperial Dynasty, you can still receive indirect guidance from the God King's Palace. In fact, you are still half a disciple of the God King's Palace. Therefore, even if the assessment of the God King Palace is more strict than other sects, the dynasty they rule will not have too many brain drains. It is just that they only have top talents gathered in the God King Palace, and they usually serve in major dynasties. This is not the same as the Holy Emperor Tianmen. For example, the Holy Emperor Tianmen has nearly 100,000 people and has basically absorbed all the talents of the dynasty they control. The totem world of the Holy Emperor is the differentiation of the Holy Emperor's totems. So, is this Holy Emperor also the King of Gods? Zhang Zizhe wondered. He got a lot of information today because he spent a lot of effort eavesdropping and looking for opportunities to talk to passers-by on the road, and then deduce the content. Anyone who came here from the totem world would be it's a rare animal, so he didn't dare to expose the fact that he was too ignorant. He was very careful to avoid letting anyone see any flaws. So, you want to buy a map and go directly to the God King's Palace. In more than a month, the test for the God King's Palace will begin. Today, only one man and one woman will be admitted, and men and women will be assessed separately. Zhang Zizhe was a little confused. Why was it stipulated that there must be one man and one woman? He inquired about it, and it seemed that there was a special cultivation method in the God King Palace, and the dual cultivation of men and women was very efficient, so the men and women recruited every year would basically become a pair and start a happy life of dual cultivation. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 744. What kind of dual cultivation is this? Zhang Zizhe was really amused by this anecdote. No other sects have such rules. Of course, because the God King Palace is the strongest, he's still locked on this goal. The harder it is to enter, the greater the test. Once he succeeds, it will be easier for the 9 Immortals to hear his name. He has been hanging around in Beatty City for a few years and has a little understanding of the assessment of the God King Palace. In fact, he found that there is no need to find the God King Palace at all. There are people setting out here every day. Just take a convoy. The God King Palace distributes 100,000 God King orders every year. Each dynasty has more than 5,000 places. 100,000 people select 2 people, which is similar to the final selection of the ancient demon tomb. No wonder the Holy Emperor Tianmen and Yanzhi Xingai are so cautious. Even in the God realm, many people cannot enter these 2 major forces. There are countless totem worlds in the God realm. It is naturally very difficult to find one. They are just trying their luck. Many people come to Beatty City because Beatty City is a base for distributing God King orders. God King orders are brought by Beatty from the God King Palace for preliminary screening and distribution. There are about hundreds of God King orders here. They have been distributed for a month. It is said that the distribution will end in 15 days. Only 10 God King orders are distributed every day. The number of places is limited, so the distribution site is very lively every day, with at least thousands of people gathered there. That place is called White Snow Inn. It should be the property of the city lord. It has made a lot of money in the past month. I am not sure who has the God King order now. I can't just follow it randomly. I will go there to see the excitement first. Maybe I can learn more about the situation. Before he was ready to leave, he followed the crowd to the White Snow Inn. There were so many people here, and there were young people everywhere. When he came here, Zhang Zizai was a little dizzy, because there were too many young geniuses here. The assessment age of the God King Palace was 20 years old, and almost everyone here was under 20 years old. This inn is just full of people who are at the same level as Zhang Fanchen, or even much higher than Zhang Fanchen. They are so densely packed that they stand like cabbages, and their postures are relatively low. If Zhang Fanchen came here, I don't know how cowardly he would be. In the center of the Beixiu Inn, there is a ring, and everyone is surrounding this ring. When Zhang Zizai just came in, he heard a crisp, moving, and playful female voice saying, "Why are you in such a hurry? Don't be anxious. If you can't pass me, you will waste the God King order if you go to the God King Palace. If I think you can't do it, you will have no chance. Be quiet. If you annoy me, no one can take the God King order today." As soon as she finished speaking, this messy environment finally became much quieter. Zhang Zizai stood on a high place and looked down. He saw a woman in white standing on the stage. This woman was cute and playful. Her appearance and temperament were both top-notch. After coming to the god's domain, he found that Yao Yueling was too ordinary. The girl in front of him was truly stunning, especially the passionate feeling of youth, which made people intoxicated. Her jade-like skin, bright eyes and white teeth, cherry lips and willow eyebrows were all perfect. Only the top family in the god's domain could cultivate such a girl with outstanding temperament. This is definitely the daughter of the ancient god. Zhang Zizai found out after a little inquiry that her name was Bai Yingying. She was only 16 years old this year. She was a little sister. She was the only daughter of the White Emperor. She was cultivated by the White Emperor since she was a child. At the age of 16, she had extraordinary talent and strength. It was rumored that she would definitely be able to enter the God King Palace in the next 3 years. But in fact, this year she will participate in the assessment of the God King Palace for the first time. She has a total of 5 chances. Probably to get familiar with the competition mode, Beatty gave her the task of distributing the God King order. Now everyone looked at her with awe and envy, wanting to take the God King order from her, but this young lady's temper was not easy to deal with, and there were not many people who could catch her eye. Beside her, there were 3 teenagers, all aged between 17 and 19, who were the children of Beatty's right-hand men. They stood beside Bai Yingying and also assisted her. Their fathers were the 3 gods under Beatty, all of whom were ancient gods who could call the wind and rain in Beatty City. These 3 teenagers were named Qi Lian, Huang Yu, and Lan Kexi. Normally, Bai Yingying would let these three teenagers personally test the strength of others and let them fight against them, which could complete the task and hone the fighting skills of these three people. Zhang Zizai watched for a while and felt that the strength of these three people was much stronger than Chu Chen, and they were basically above the third level of the initial god realm. The strongest man in the origin continent, the Holy Dragon Emperor, was actually only the second level of the initial god realm. Bai Yingying's rule for distributing the Divine King order is that she points to people, and whoever she points to goes up. They don't need to defeat Qi Lian and the others, they just need to get Bai Yingying's affirmation to get the Divine King order. As for those who she didn't point to, it was because she felt that they were completely unqualified, so even if she complained that the rule was unfair, she could only bear it. Bai Yingying was also training her eyesight. A person's eyesight to identify opponents is also part of strength. The people she pointed to basically have some special features. Yingying, the further we get to the end, the worse these people are. The capable ones have already taken the Divine King order and set off. There is no one who is pleasing to the eye today. Is it a bit of a waste of time for us to stay here? Among the three teenagers, a teenager in a yellow robe stood behind Bai Yingying and asked softly. Just for fun, there is a little time. The delivery will be completed in half a month, and then half a month is enough for the journey. It is not a first-come first-served assessment. There is no point in going early. Another man named Lan Kexi, wearing blue clothes and with a peach blossom face, laughed. You guys should talk less. Look at Qi Lian. He cherishes the opportunity to fight with others the most. You two lazy guys. Bai Yingying rolled her eyes. He is trying to please you. Haha, there is no point in fighting the remaining cats and dogs now. Lan Kexi laughed dumbly. Just throw out the God King order and leave directly. I looked around and found that the remaining ones are indeed all crooked melons and jujubes. Xuanhuan said. My dad will beat me to death if I do that. Bai Yingying bit her red lips and said, you two better shut up. I don't need you two lazy bastards anyway. The two looked at each other and felt a little bored. In front of them, the red-haired boy named Qi Lian had a firm face, decisive moves, and amazing lethality. In recent times, people who Bai Yingying has pointed out basically can't withstand a single move from him. There will be updates later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 745. Who else wants to come up? If you are not afraid of death, you can come and give it a try. After Qi Lian defeated his opponent, he became fierce and stared at everyone. This means that there is no need to point out Bai Yingying. He gave him a chance, but under his majesty, no one dared to come up. Huang Yu and Lan Kexia both laughed from behind. Qi Lian was so frightened by this bunch of trash, Huang Yu said. It's this bunch of losers that allowed Red Lianhu to show off his power. Look at his proud look. Because if you don't get called up, you may be killed by Qi Lian. Knowing that he is the third level of the first god realm, it is difficult for you to meet the standards in Bai Yingying's eyes, so basically no one goes up at this time. It's not unreasonable that they stayed here for a month and still didn't get the God King's order. Today, in Bai Yingying's eyes, most of them are already eliminated with no hope at all. Moreover, there are only two places in the God King Palace in the end. No matter who is given, it is basically a waste. Although there are only two places, the performance of young people from each major dynasty is undoubtedly related to the face of each dynasty. Last year, our 5 Emperors dynasty was almost at the bottom. Looking at the situation this year, we will still be at the bottom, Huang Yu said helplessly. There's nothing we can do about it. Our 5 Emperors dynasty is relatively small to begin with. It will only become more and more difficult to hold our heads up in the future. The arrogance of those in other dynasties is really annoying. Anyway, there is no way to go to other dynasties. As soon as they hear that it is our 5 emperors dynasty, they will immediately talk about the results of the assessment in the God King's palace. These people are really speechless. These people still don't live up to expectations. Fortunately, Ying has grown up. Although she has no hope this year, in 2 years, she is very hopeful of entering the God King's palace. It has been many years since anyone has been able to enter the God King's palace. The two of them were talking to themselves, but they didn't expect that just as they were talking, a young man in black suddenly descended from the sky, landed lightly in front of Qi Lian, and said with a smile on his face, "You mean I can do it myself? Come up and challenge? As long as you are not afraid of death." The person who spoke was none other than Zhang Zizai. His appearance really made people stunned. When everyone was frightened by Qi Lian's rage, he actually stood up at this moment. He is a person that no one knows, so when they see him, they are basically confused. No one knows who this guy is, but whether he is brave or mentally retarded, many people probably have the answer. Going up at this time is simply not giving Qi Lian any face. He's miserable. This guy is really stupid. The brain determines fate, life, and death. It's not easy for someone with his intelligence to survive to this day. It's incredible that such a person has cultivated to the first god realm. In the midst of the crowd, Qi Lian looked at the young man in front of him in astonishment. He just wanted to laugh. He didn't expect there to be such a reckless person. If he didn't kill Zhang Zizai, he would probably lose face. Just now I was just showing off my ferocity to scare others, but now that someone is here, there is no way it will end unless someone kills someone. When he found out that the visitor was an unknown person without any characteristics, he smiled ferociously. "Are you sure? If you come up here yourself, you may lose your life," Qi Lian said. "Sure, let's go," Zhang Zizai said very simply. He actually has the order of the God King, so why does he still come here to cause trouble? In fact, he was thinking that since Bai Yingying was so powerful, if he had a good relationship with her, maybe the trip to the God King's palace would be easier. He came here to make friends, but if he didn't show some strength, others would definitely not take a second look. Of course, after all, she is a fair and tender 16-year-old beauty. If she must travel with someone, she will definitely be much more comfortable with her. Ever since, he had sex with Qi Lian. When he appeared so lightly, Bai Yingying was really curious about him. She asked, "Hey, are you really not afraid of death?" "I'm afraid of death, but in order to show my strength in front of Miss Yingying, it's worth dying," Zhang Zizai said with a smile. "You have a sweet mouth, but you boasted about Haikao." Qi Lian is already angry. "I can't help you," Bai Yingying said. "It's okay. This little beast can't do anything to me. Miss Yingying can just watch it," Zhang Zizai said. "Little beast," Qi Lian's eyes turned red instantly. The conversation between Zhang Zizai and Bai Yingying aroused all his anger points. "Qi Lian, he probably has some abilities," Bai Yingying reminded. "I know, let's see if he can get your God King's order before he dies." Qi Lian snorted coldly, and started to suppress Zhang Zizai with his majestic aura. Behind him, a golden flaming lion was roaring. Zhang Zizai knew that this was definitely the aura of a god-level totem. He had just found out that it was called the Red Flame Golden Elephant Totem, and it was a pure god-level totem. And this guy's realm is indeed the third level of the first god realm. When the power of the totem was revealed, golden hair grew on his body, his head turned directly into the head of a lion, and his whole person was already a red flame golden beast. The characteristics of this totem are exactly the same as Zhang Zizai's. It is also a super strengthening of the physical body. At this time, Qi Lian is completely equivalent to a super source beast. In his hand, there is a blade with flames that defy the sky. The blade is spitting fire. This is the Vulcan Sky Sword. It is a very powerful existence among the dry level totem weapons. it is the work of an ancient god. Such Qi Lian was so angry that he suppressed him step by step. In front of him, Zhang Zizai was shrouded in a dark shadow. He had been communicating with the Demon Lord Cauldron recently, and now he has finally made some progress. When he does not need the Demon Lord Cauldron to protect him, he can temporarily stop using it. It would be better to use it as a trump card, so today, he has to rely on his strength to fight. The changes of the Taiji demon dragon appeared on his body. When his dragon scales turned into black and white yin and yang fish and covered his whole body, the monstrous dark destructive aura was no weaker than the red flame golden lion totem. Zhang Zizai even looked more violent, especially the killing god Xianbing in his hand, which was even more murderous. This is not a human battle, but more like a duel between two giant beasts. Roar! In this moment, the swords collided. At that moment, the black thunder burst out violently. First of all, the Star God Sword Manual, 3 consecutive moves, the black stars shone throughout the white snow at this moment. Meteors, stars, 3,000 galaxies. And opposite him, the red refining sword technique was violent, breaking through the wind, intending to tear everything apart. 3,000 galaxies swept across the sky. In the first confrontation, Zhang Zizai directly repelled the sky. His violent sword skills surged and were wiped out by Zhang Zizai. The two of them had similar fighting methods, so this looked more like a close combat. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 746. On the ring, people only saw a black figure and a golden figure fighting fiercely. The sound of the collision of flesh and blood swords was extremely fierce and rough, which was completely different from the fighting styles of many people before. The standing male lion held the Vulcan heavenly sword and used the battle technique of the heavenly sea of fire crazy sword. Every time he killed one, it was like a raging sea of fire, and the hot breath was like rushing magma, swallowing people up instantly. It seemed that Qi Lian was more powerful, because his attack was extremely fierce, and it seemed that he was suppressing Zhang Zizai so much that he couldn't breathe. Just when people thought Zhang Zizai was about to lose, the black figure suddenly erupted with terrifying black thunder. 2 endless figures of giant gods appeared behind Zhang Zizai. They were 2 giants made entirely of thunder. Their bodies were made of billions of electric wires. They were also black lightning, but they showed 2 forms, one yin and one yang. Attributes, so the 2 giant thunder gods formed a mutual attraction force. When the 2 thunder giants collided together, what was produced was a violent explosion. This is the power of the 2 tactics of Great Chaos Thunder Demon Fist and Great Chaos Thunder God Flash. The 2 thunder tactics, one yin and one yang, form one body with each other. At that moment, all the thunder from the 2 giant thunder gods were concentrated on Zhang Zizai. His mysterious death god weapon had turned into a glove and was worn on his hand. Countless thunders gathered in it, waiting for the moment to explode. The endless black thunder made Zhang Zizai extremely terrifying at this moment. Boom! This move exploded, and in an instant, thousands of thunder clones appeared, surrounding Qi Lian, without even knowing that one was Zhang Zizai's true body and that one was pure thunder. This is the power of the Great Chaos Thunder God Flash. Although it is a physical combat technique, the physical combat technique can also explode with infinite lethality during battle. This is a lightning storm magnified countless times. At that moment, countless thunder suddenly struck Qi Lian's body in a flash, and he had no idea where Zhang Zizai's true body was flashing. Pretending to be mysterious. Broken. Qi Lian roared, and the Vulcan heavenly sword slashed violently, and countless sword winds and seas of fire swept around. Boom boom boom. The collision of thunder and flames, with bursts of lightning and sweeping flames everywhere. At this moment, in the midst of countless collisions, a huge fist shadow suddenly condensed in front of Zhang Zizai. It was the combination of countless yin and yang thunder. Once the fist shadow was born, It had already crushed Qi Lian. And Qi Lian was obviously not prepared for this lethality. Break again. He used the power of the first god realm to arouse the divine power of heaven and earth. Boom. The roar this time directly engulfed Qi Lian and was completely involved in the chaotic thunder pool. Even the Vulcan heavenly sword flew out. Under the electric shock of nowhere thunder, Qi Lian screamed, and the golden flame was completely destroyed. Suppressed, this Snow White indirectly became the world of Black Thunder. The victory or defeat has been decided at this time. Zhang Zizai didn't really hurt anyone. When everyone saw that the winner had been decided, he just burned Qi Liandian's whole body to black, but did not really hurt the root. Even so, he still hit the ground hard, and it was still under the attention of thousands of people. In sharp contrast, Zhang Zizai landed on the ground lightly, as light as a swallow, as if nothing had happened. Many people were confused and had no idea why there was such a reversal. They began to look at Zhang Zizai seriously and started a heated discussion. He actually defeated Qi Lian. Who is he? Qi Lian was completely crushed. This is the son that General Shi Kung has trained since childhood. Who is this person, and why have I never heard of him? I don't know, no one knows who this person is. He's so disrespectful, Bai Yingying and the others won't forgive him. I guess I'll be tortured. After all, it's a bit disrespectful. But he doesn't look that strong. If he didn't play like this, I don't think Bai Yingying would have picked him. Amid the heated discussion, Qi Lian got up with a gloomy expression on his face. He picked up the Vulcan heavenly sword on the ground and actually wanted to attack again. The anger on his face clearly showed that he was not willing to lose. That's enough. He has stopped and you have been defeated, Bai Yingying said. But Qi Lian didn't seem to hear it and continued to attack. Qi Lian, it wasn't until Bai Yingying was a little displeased and scolded him slightly that he gritted his teeth and stepped back, saying, "This person is obviously here to cause trouble. I can teach him a lesson. There's no reason to look for trouble. I'm just taking advantage of the opportunity to fight for the God King's order," Lan Kaija said with a smile on his face. "You were defeated even when you went up, so why are you sarcastic from behind like a cow?" Qi Lian said angrily. Haha, Lan Kexu smiled coldly. At this time, Bai Yingying had already taken out a God King token. She was about to throw it to Zhang Zizai and said, "Your cultivation is very good. This time, go to the God King Palace and strive to bring glory to our 5 Emperors dynasty. This is your God King make. Actually, I have an order from the God King." Just when Bai Yingying was about to reward him, he suddenly said something that was puzzling. What does it mean to go up and offend Qi Lian despite the God King's order? Are you seeking death? Qi Lian gritted his teeth and asked. Shut up, Bai Yingying was interested. She walked forward, looked at Zhang Zizai curiously, and asked, "If you don't want the order of the God King, then what are you trying to do?" "I am weak, but I have ambitions. This time I showed my strength in order to go with Miss Bai to the Divine King Palace for assessment, to serve Miss Bai, and to take care of each other. I wonder if Miss Bai can agree to my unwelcome request," Zhang Zizai asked directly. So direct, Bai Yingying was amused. She looked at Zhang Zizai curiously and said, "There are not many people who dare to please me in this way. You are the only one. A beauty like Miss Bai naturally requires me to spend a lot of effort." Zhang Zizai smiled. "After saying so much, I don't even know your name," Bai Yingying asked. "My surname is Zhang, my name is Zizai, and my ambition is to be free and unrestrained," Zhang Zizai said. "Interesting," Bai Yingying praised. "I think you have a hole in your brain. You want to be with Yingying in such a clumsy way? Don't you even take a piss and look in the mirror?" Qi Lian said sarcastically in a deep voice. "I think you don't know yourself. Who is more handsome between us? Ask others," Zhang Zizai said disapprovingly. "Yingying, this person's origin is unknown. I don't know what tricks he has. Don't fall for his tricks, Huang Yu warned. It's a bit late tonight. I will update one chapter first. If you can't wait, you can go to bed first. There are 3 more chapters that will be written today. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 747. No matter who you are, get out of here. Lan Kexi was on the same side as them at this time. You're overthinking. Who would go to such great lengths to set up a trap to get close to me? I think he's quite interesting. Then follow me on the next trip to the God King's palace. It depends on your performance. Bai Yingying made a decision despite their opposition. After all, they all supported her, but they never changed her mind. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Yingying. Don't be jealous of others. Bai Yingying didn't want to hear them continue. They wanted to talk more, but seeing Bai Yingying's eyes, they knew that this matter was no longer negotiable. In fact, you 3 don't need to have any hostility towards me. We are all from the 5 Emperors dynasty. Just be friends and take care of each other in the future, Zhang Zizai said kindly. Humph, they can't change, but they will never associate with Zhang Zizai. That's right, my father said that you should make more friends when you go out. Look at how stingy you are, Bai Yingying said contemptuously. She waved to Zhang Zizai and asked him to come to her side, and then asked Qi Lian and others to continue to send the God King order. She looked Zhang Zizai up and down and asked, "Is your totem a dragon totem?" "Yes. My mother also has it, but it's a pity that I didn't inherit it. I think the dragon totem is cool, and your battle just now was also very good." "Where are you from?" Bai Yingying asked. Zhang Zizai made up a story based on his understanding of the 5 Emperors dynasty in the past few days, and she actually believed it, saying, "It's really great that your small place can produce a genius like you. You are too flattering. I have been wandering around since I was a child, and I have gained some opportunities to achieve today's small achievements. I am already this age, and I am only at this level. Compared with Miss Bai, it is simply not worth mentioning," Zhang Zizai said modestly. Modest again. In fact, the main reason for following them is that Zhang Zizai has just arrived in this divine domain and knows too little about it. If there is someone to accompany him, he can easily go to the God King Palace. At the same time, with the knowledge of Bai Yingying and others, Zhang Zizai can also get more information and let him know more about the so-called God King Palace assessment. Otherwise, he is basically still confused now. As for the rejection of Qi Lian and others, Zhang Zizai is too lazy to pay attention to them. As long as Bai Yingying is willing to make friends with him, it will be fine. Let's spend half a month to send out all the tasks my father gave me, and then we will set off for the God King Palace. No problem, tell me if there is anything I can do, Zhang Zizai said. Of course, you can help me test the skills of the remaining people. These 3 people are too lazy. They have been fighting for a month and now they don't want to move. Fighting continuously for a month, hundreds of games a day, is actually quite tiring, but Zhang Zizai's Tianyuan power recovery is stronger, so he has no problem. He will naturally not refuse the combat experience for free. Bai Yingying is probably testing him too. In the next half-month, Zhang Zizai basically took on all the challenges, and no one could take any advantage of him. However, the God King order was still sent out. "Sorry, this has cost you a lot of energy." After half a month of getting along, Bai Yingying has completely trusted him. "It's a small matter, stretch your muscles and do some warm-up exercises for entering the God King Palace," Zhang Zizai said with a smile. "Enter the palace of the God King? Are you dreaming?" Lan Kexi, who was standing next to him, burst out laughing when she heard this. "You are indeed someone from that remote place," Huang Yu said with disdain. Zhang Zizai made up his origin, which was a small place in the 5 Emperors dynasty. Don't take it too seriously. It's not okay for him to be joking. Besides, he has helped you a lot in the past half-month, and you don't know how to be grateful, Bai Yingying said. They prepared for a while and were about to set off for the palace of the God King. In the past half-month, Zhang Zizai had obtained a lot of information about the assessment of the palace of the God King and even the entire God realm from his conversation with her. Bai Yingying had a high status and was naturally knowledgeable. She knew a lot of things that many ordinary people didn't know. Bai Xuanhuan was opened by Bai Yingying herself. She had to close it during her absence. Yingying, don't you say goodbye to the city lord before leaving, Huang Yu asked. I don't want to. I'm going to talk a lot again, Bai Yingying said playfully. She was about to leave secretly. Suddenly, a magnificent voice came from the sky in front of her. Yingying, who are you talking about? As soon as the voice fell, Zhang Zizai saw a large number of people descending in front of him. There should be more than 20 people, most of whom were middle-aged. Among them, there were several ancient gods. The ancient gods had a long life, so there was no way to judge their age. It can only be confirmed that most of these people are very powerful, especially the generals, who are at least at the level of ancient gods. However, the most eye-catching one is the handsome man in the white robe in the center. Bai Yingying can be so beautiful, which must be related to this person. He was the one who spoke just now. This person must be the ruler of Beatty City, a person from the God King Palace, and the existence known as the White Emperor. Seeing this handsome man, Bai Yingying immediately smiled and said, Daddy, it was definitely not me who said that. It was Lan Kexi who said that. He loves to say bad things about you the most. Lan Kexi's face darkened and he almost knelt down in fear. A general in blue was about to explain next to Beatty, but Beatty waved his hand and said, I knew you were going to make trouble. Do you remember what I told you before? Of course I remember it clearly. I will definitely make Dad proud, Bai Yingying said. Watching their conversation, Zhang Zizai thought of Lingling. He didn't know if she would dislike him for being so long-winded when she grew up. I think you are just naughty at this point, he waved behind him and said, Yunjing, come here. As soon as the voice fell, 5 young men flew over from a distance and landed in front of them. These young people had a temperament similar to Bai Yingying and their status. Among them, the blue-clothed young man in the center had the most elegant temperament. He looked like a green pine, pure and natural, and very noble. Bai Yunjing, why are you here? Bai Yingying pouted a little, obviously not very happy. The blue-clothed young man named Bai Yunjing smiled slightly. Behind him were young men and women, basically all at the level of Qi Lian. It was me who asked King Di to ask them to come over. Yunjing is a steady person, so he can help look after you for me. You can go to the palace of the God King together, so I can feel more at ease. It will prevent you from making trouble on the road with no one supervising you. Yunjing treats you very well, so you should also be more sensible, Beatty said seriously. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 748. Daddy, can we go by ourselves? Bai Yingying said aggrievedly. It seems that Sister Yingying doesn't like me, Bai Yunjing asked with a smile. Don't pay attention to her, she just wants to make trouble. Keep an eye on her and tell me if there is any problem at any time, Bai Di said. Yes, Uncle Bai Yunjing nodded. Let's go together. Let me know if you are disobedient and come back to teach you a lesson, Bai Di glared at her, and then left with his subordinates. Qi Lian, Huang Yu, and Lan Kexi's fathers also warned them separately, but no one paid attention to Zhang Zizai standing aside. After they left, Bai Yunjing smiled and asked, Yingying, I brought the divine source beast giant wood sky pang this time, and it is not a problem to ride more than 20 people. I don't need it, I have it myself, Bai Yingying said. That won't work. Uncle Bai has ordered that you have to ride the giant wood sky pen, Bai Yunjing said helplessly. Bai Yunjing saw her pouting and getting angry, and thought it was cute and funny. He blew a whistle and summoned her with his voice. Not long after, a huge blue rock flew in front of them. The blue rock was thick and huge, full of blood and energy, and was obviously very strong. It was estimated that its combat power could be compared with that of the initial God realm. Although the initial God realm could fly in the air for a short time, they still needed the help of the source beast to travel. Sister Yingying, please, Bai Yunjing said gently. Seeing that she couldn't escape, Bai Yingying was too lazy to get entangled and directly boarded the giant tree rock. Qi Lian and the others were somewhat hostile to Bai Yunjing, but they followed him. At the same time, Bai Yunjing and his friends boarded the giant tree rock, and Zhang Zizai followed at the end. Who is this? Why haven't I seen him before? Bai Yunjing was slightly surprised to see Zhang Zizai follow him. It's my new friend, don't worry about it, Bai Yingying said. She asked Zhang Zizai to sit next to her, the closest to her, and then asked Qi Lian and the other three to separate Bai Yunjing and the others. Bai Yunjing didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and could only guide the giant tree Tianpeng to fly into the sky, soaring into the air without any drag. Almost in the blink of an eye, he flew out of Beatty City and soared towards the endless territory in the east. For a while, they were in the clouds and mist, and the wind kept whistling, and even speaking was a little difficult. Countless divine spirits passed through his body, and Zhang Zizai thought that he was actually in the God realm and the genius of the God realm, which was like a dream. Why doesn't Yingying like Bai Yunjing? Zhang Zizai asked. He thought that this young man was as gentle as jade, and all girls would like him. He is too obedient and easily stands on my father's side. He is annoying. I don't want to marry him, Bai Yingying pouted. So that's it? Zhang Zizai probably understood that she liked freedom by nature, and she didn't want someone who controlled her like her father. However, it turns out that Bai Yunjing is her fiancé. No wonder Lan Kexi and the others are so hostile to him. Moreover, the other party is from Qingdi City. It is normal for the geniuses of the two cities to compete with each other. However, Zhang Zizai only wanted to enter the God King Palace, so he had no time to care. After making friends with Bai Yingying, he could ride the giant wood Tianpeng directly to the God King Palace, which was indeed much easier than expected. With nothing to do, Bai Yingying was too lazy to talk to Bai Yunjing, so Zhang Zizai took the opportunity to ask about the God King Palace assessment. Interestingly, when Bai Yunjing appeared, even Qi Lian and the others were not so hostile to Zhang Zizai. When they heard Zhang Zizai and Bai Yingying talking, they would occasionally interrupt. The God King Palace has an assessment every year. Every year, more than 200,000 people take part. In the end, only 2 people can succeed. The probability is almost zero, but in fact, as long as there is a chance, most people want to fight for it. The previous assessments were actually different in mode, but they were generally about passing levels. The God Masters of the God King Palace set up various levels. More than 200,000 people rushed forward together, and were eliminated along the way. There were at least 4 levels. The first man and woman to pass the level was the winner. It's not certain how many levels there are. Sometimes there are 4, but there are many small levels in it. Sometimes there are more than 7. Anyway, you have to rush forward all the way. And there are even some treasures and good fortunes in it, which is also the attractive part of the God King Palace assessment. There are treasures, but there are also dangers, such as source beasts, corpse puppets, mechanisms, and interference from other people or even assassinations. The situation will be more complicated. Anyway, it is still quite dangerous. If you are not born in the God King Palace, it is really difficult to enter it, because the God King Palace believes more in the children it has cultivated since birth. Giving an assessment opportunity is mainly to catch the slippery fish. The God Masters of the God King Palace are all ancient gods. These are the ancient gods in the God King Palace who specialize in guiding the younger generation to practice. Basically, each of them is very famous in the God realm. Compared with other forces, they may not be stronger, but under the premise of equal strength, they are basically younger. The assessment of the God King Palace is basically a test of strength, willpower, and wisdom, but luck is also one of them, especially the previous checkpoints, which allow cooperation, so if more people act together, the speed will be much faster. Bai Yingying said. You are a person from the God realm, how come you don't even know the content of the God King Palace assessment? You are too ignorant, Qi Lian complained. Zhang Zizai smiled and smoothed it over. Do you want to hear the inside information? Bai Yingying suddenly said stealthily. Of course I want to hear it, Zhang Zizai said. This is nonsense. He came to hook up Bai Yingying, isn't it for such inside information? My father told me that he knows who the 3 divine servants who will supervise the assessment this time are, Bai Yingying said proudly. The other 3 should know, so they didn't react, and Zhang Zizai listened attentively. Those 3 divine masters are all very famous figures in the God King Palace. They are all the youngest divine masters. One of them is only in his 20s, not much older than you. In his 20s, he became an ancient god, Zhang Zizai said in astonishment. What else do you think? The core genius of the God King Palace must have this ability, and when he became an ancient god, he was not even 20 years old. This is against the sky. He cultivated to become a god before he was 20 years old. He really didn't let others live. However, after careful calculation, in the God realm, 20 years old means 20 years of cultivation. Zhang Zizai has only been cultivating for 4 years, which should be about the same. 2 of them, one is called Zhou Lingxian, the other is called Bai King Hua, both are famous divine masters in the palace of the King of Gods, and they are all under the age of 40. Among them, Bai King Hua is the uncle of Bai Yunjing, the only person who entered the palace of the King of Gods in our 5 Emperors dynasty, and he is very talented. So this time Bai Yunjing may have a chance to use the back door, and maybe have some good performance. It's really annoying. My father asked me to go with him, and I guess he mainly wants me to go behind as well, Bai Yingying said with disdain, as if she was very disdainful of the matter of using the back door. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 749. There is another one who is definitely the most famous, Zhang Zizai guessed it. That is, compared with that God Master, these 2 are nothing. That God Master is the most beautiful woman in the God King Palace, a stunning beauty, the most beautiful in the world. I have the honor to meet her once, and I am really shocked. I never thought that such a beautiful woman could exist. She is my idol, Bai Yingying said excitedly. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The most beautiful woman in the God King Palace, Zhang Zizai was a little curious. It sounded like this was the one who became an ancient god in her 20s. That is, she can be ranked in the entire God realm. And she is also one of the peerless geniuses in the God King Palace. At her age, there are almost no opponents. I am very surprised that she can come to supervise the assessment this time. I really want to perform well in front of her, he. Hearing her exaggeration, Zhang Zizai was a little curious. Then I guess a lot of people want to see her beauty, Zhang Zizai said. I've said so much, but you don't know who she is, Bai Yingying was shocked. There are people in the world who don't know her idol. Sorry, I've been in seclusion for too long and I'm ignorant, Zhang Zizai said. You're really a frog in the well, Lan Kexi didn't forget to despise him again. The God King of the God King Palace is illusory, and the God King of Tiandu who is in power now is not a real God King, but it is said that he also has the fighting power of a God King. At present, he is in charge of everything in the God King Palace. His precious daughter Xuanhuan, you haven't heard of it, It's amazing, Bai Yingying said with an exaggerated expression. Xuanhuan, Zhang Zizai thought about it. He thought that Juxian was the most attractive woman in her 20s, who was older than him, especially after she successfully reincarnated. By the way, have you heard of the dragon sacrifice divine domain? Zhang Zizai asked. What ravine? I don't know, Qi Lian said. I haven't heard of it. There must be someone more beautiful in the dragon sacrifice domain, Zhang Zizai said. You mean, more beautiful than my idol? Bai Yingying asked. Zhang Zizai chuckled and didn't comment. The four of them looked at each other. Poor guy, he's already stupid before he even gets to the God King Palace, Huang Yu sighed. Now, even Bai Yingying couldn't help but nod. God King Palace, Tian de God King, the name is really domineering, Zhang Zizai has remembered it. During the time when the giant tree Tianpen was flying, the sky and the earth were quiet, and occasionally people could be seen rushing below. They should all be heading to the God King Palace. They have the giant tree Tianpen, so they don't need to rest below, and can arrive directly. Although they set off a long time later, they have actually surpassed many people. During this period, Bai Yunjing talked to Bai Yingying many times, but Bai Yingying didn't pay much attention to her. Yunjing, forget it, don't humiliate yourself. It was her father who asked us to use your uncle's authority to help her this time, but she didn't appreciate it. I really can't stand it, a woman next to Bai Yunjing said. Don't talk nonsense, my father and Uncle Bai have a good relationship. Yingying is also very good, but she is still too young and likes to play a little. She will grow up, Bai Yunjing said. In fact, I think Yingying is good, but there is a problem that needs to be considered, another teenager said. What is the problem? Bai Yunjing asked in a low voice. There are too many men around her. There were originally 3 flies, and now there is one more, and they are all hostile to you. They are obviously interested in Bai Yingying. Although you are better, after all, some people are closer, and it is inevitable that Yingying will go astray, the teenager said. Bai Yunjing's gentle eyes flashed a little gloomy and worried. I'm afraid he has the same idea. It's okay, he glanced over there. Zhang Zizai was chatting with Bai Yingying. Have you made a decision? The boy asked. It will be very chaotic when you enter the assessment. You can teach them a lesson when you have the chance. It's impossible for a toad to eat swan meat, Bai Yunjing smiled. Yes. As a person, you need to position yourself well, the boy nodded. He seemed to be talking to Zhang Zizai and the woman next to Bai Yunjing. After listening, the woman lowered her head and said nothing more, and the boy's hand gently rested on the back of her hand, but she pulled it away directly. Zhang Zizai didn't know what they were talking about. He was still asking, is the assessment directly inside the God King Palace? You wishful thinking. The God King Palace is not a place that is so easy to enter, and how can tens of thousands of people enter it? It is near the God King Palace, a place called Falling Valley. We gather in the Falling Valley, and then shuttle all the way. The first one to walk out of the Falling Valley can enter the God King Palace. The 3 God Masters are already waiting for us in the Falling Valley. At the current speed, it will take about 10 days for us to officially open after we arrive. By then, it will be time to fight hard. More than 20 dynasties, more than 200,000 people, are already. The competition is indeed huge, but it is also very attractive to Zhang Zizai. Lu Dingxing and Shen Xiao have their own future. This time, he must fight for it, even though he knows that with his current strength, he really has no advantage. However, he still has a lot of capital, such as the Demon Lord Cauldron. Finally, they arrived at the Falling Valley. Zhang Zizai saw a towering mountain in the distant sky. A line of sky was split from the center of the mountain. The line of sky was the Falling Valley. It is said that if you pass through the Falling Valley, you can reach the God King Palace. This is the only way to the God King Palace. You can't find the God King Palace in other directions. It really deserves to be the core place. Before Zhang Zizai arrived, he already felt that the spirit of the gods was several times stronger. The pressure of the line of sky was too great. It is estimated that if you stand below and look up, you can only see a line in the sky. The giant tree Tianpeng fell down in advance and could not move forward. They had to move forward on the ground. When they fell down, they found that there were many people around them, just like them, heading towards the falling valley. It is said that the set level is in the falling valley, and each level is different. After landing, Bai Yingying asked Zhang Zizai and the other four to follow her. She didn't say hello to Bai Yunjing and went straight inside. Bai Yunjing had no choice but to follow behind. Bai Yingying had grown up and became more attractive. Seeing the four men next to her, he couldn't be at ease. What is the background of this Zhang Zizai? It seems that he has no background. The other three are all sons of Uncle Bai's subordinates and are not easy to deal with. How can this person with no status be so close to Yingying? Bai Yunjing asked. So, find an opportunity to teach him a lesson first. That also requires this opportunity. I think there should be. People always make mistakes, the boy said. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 750. Before the falling valley, before the gate was opened, there were already crowds of people, all of whom were young people under the age of 20, with about half male and half female. This is the god's domain. To be able to come here, you must have at least the strength of Zhang Fanshan. When Zhang Zizai saw more than 200,000 geniuses of this level, or even far beyond this level, appearing here, he couldn't figure out the purpose of the Holy Emperor Tianmen and the Eternal Night Star Sea to come to the well of the god's domain for selection. No wonder Zhang Zizai killed them to the end, but they didn't look down on them. It is probably just to find special types of people with some capital, such as Shen Xiao and others, who must have super talents that Zhang Zizai didn't know. The Tire Sword Lord of the Wangchuan Sword Tomb went to Jianyuan City for this purpose. In fact, the ones who really absorb geniuses in the well of the god's domain are very small forces in the god's domain, which may be a dynasty, a city, a small leader who occupies a mountain as king, or a random ancient god. The Holy Emperor Tianmen, the Eternal Night Sea of Stars, and the Sword Tomb of Wangchuan may not go to the well of the divine realm once in thousands of years, and this time they just happened to catch up. It must be said that these more than 200,000 people all have the temperament of Chu Chen and Yao Yueling. Chu Chen can only be regarded as an ordinary dust here. The reason why he can appear in that place is probably because of his family background. Yao Yueling is even more needless to say. The ancient god of the eternal night sea of stars is her mother. Countless handsome men and beautiful women, handsome and gorgeous, surrounded together, most people are basically relaxing and playing. The atmosphere here is very different from the ancient demon tomb. The ancient demon tomb was unknown at that time, and most people now just come to try their luck. They almost all know whether they can enter the God King Palace. Looking around, even young people like Bai Yingying and Bai Yunjing, who are very famous in the Five Emperors dynasty, drowned in these countless geniuses and powerful people, do not seem to be outstanding. There must be more outstanding existences than them, but I don't know which corner is looking at the opponent. They stood there, patiently waiting for the day when the mountain gate would open. During this time, Bai Yingying finally spoke to Bai Yunjing, but her attitude was rather ordinary. However, she was very familiar with Zhang Zizai when they were chatting, and she looked very enthusiastic, which attracted the attention of others. "Do you really think I'm pretty?" Bai Yingying asked shyly. "That's right, I haven't seen the most beautiful woman in the God King Palace you mentioned, but I can't imagine anyone who can be prettier than you," Zhang Zizai said with a smile. Yeah, Bai Yingying's personality was very simple. She knew that Zhang Zizai was being slick, but she couldn't help being happy. "You're so sweet. After entering the fallen valley, I'll protect you." If anyone dares to bully you, I'll beat him upside down, Bai Yingying said. Are you sure you're older than me? This 16-year-old girl was about the same age as Ruo Xiaoyu. Who said that only the older one can be called the elder sister? Humph. Lan Kexi and the others had a headache because they noticed that Bai Yingying trusted Zhang Zizai more and more, so they still had to remain vigilant. In fact, it's not us who hate Zhang Zizai the most, it's that person. Lan Kexi secretly glanced at Bai Yunjing. It's so light, can't you tell? Huang Yu said. She didn't like us playing with Yingying before, and she was more likely to be a nobody. You can see that she will be secretly punished sooner or later, Qi Lian said. This is the price of being too arrogant. The closer the time is, the more nervous the mood has spread. The top talents from the major dynasties are surrounded by many capable assistants, and the number of people brought by Bai Yunjing and Bai Yingying is not much. Finally, the day of the opening of the Fallen Valley has arrived. On that day, more than 200,000 young people were excited. Their achievements were related to the face of their respective dynasties. This was a contest between the pillars of the dynasties. The major dynasties fought for their status and power in the God King Palace at all costs. Although only 2 people were selected, there were many key figures among them. Bai Yunjing and Bai Yingying were barely considered key figures. It is estimated that some people would pay attention to them. In addition to the geniuses of the God realm directly cultivated by the major dynasties, there were also some people who rose without much background in the crowd. Zhang Zizai was classified in the same way. In fact, there was no shortage of strong people in this category. In addition, there were geniuses of the God realm in the unknown areas outside the dynasties controlled by the God King Palace, and even geniuses in the dynasties controlled by other top forces. There were also young people who came here for fame or with some purpose. They were also very dangerous competitors. On the day when the Fallen Valley opened, what excited more than 200,000 geniuses of the God realm was that the 3 ancient God-level God Masters finally appeared. The momentum and bearing of these 3 divine masters can be said to have been superior to all living beings when they first appeared, completely suppressing hundreds of thousands of people. The pressure of the ancient gods descended from the sky, and at this moment it really felt like a god descending from heaven. The legends of the origin continent recorded many scenes of gods descending from heaven, and in Zhang Zizai's heart, they were similar to the bearing of these 3 divine masters. It is said that they are all under 40 years old, but in fact they all look like young people. On the left is a young man in blue clothes. He has a handsome face and his eyes move quickly. He quickly gathers the characteristics of many people in his mind. Zhang Zizai guessed that he was the divine master named Zhou Lingxian. The reason for this is that he is definitely not Bai Qinghua, because Bai Qinghua on the right has exchanged glances with Bai Yunjing. Bai Qinghua is very tall and looks like a tree. His face is very serious, giving people a very majestic and old-fashioned feeling. People who let him sweep his eyes basically have to retract their necks. After all, this person is a god, and his momentum is really too strong. He has just arrived and controls the whole scene. It is no problem to control more than 200,000 people. He is really worthy of being a higher life level. But in fact, no matter how powerful Zhou Lingxian and Bai Qinghua are, only less than 1% of people will cast their eyes on them, because at this time, including Zhang Zizai, they are all looking at the legendary first beauty in the God King Palace. Xuanhuan, the daughter of Tiandu God King, appeared. She came in the embrace of the 2 ancient gods, stepping on the colorful clouds, and suddenly broke into the hearts of countless young boys. Zhang Zizai took a closer look and was a little speechless. It was amazing that a person could be so beautiful. Her graceful figure, hot body, and snow-white skin were so fascinating. Among her facial features, whether it was her eyes, nose, or cherry mouth, they were all so perfect that people could exclaim in amazement. This woman was simply a work of art created by God. She didn't look like she was born. Her every frown, smile, and gesture were like a thread that moved the hearts of all men, and of course, could also seduce the souls of women. The fastest update, please bookmark this site to read the latest novels. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 751. Although she was older than the young people present and was an elder of the Divine Master level, in a place like the Divine Domain, the age difference of less than 10 years was nothing. Zhang Zizai was actually deeply attracted, not because Xuanhuan was outstanding in appearance, but because he found the temperament of Juxian in this peerless beauty. It was a kind of charming feeling, not at all coquettish, but very pure, but the more so, when she suddenly had a playful expression or action, she would exude a charming feeling that made people tremble. He took a look. If his guess was right, her totem should be similar to Juxian, both were foxes, but he didn't know what kind of fox it was. I didn't expect that in the Divine Domain, there would be such a grand occasion where one person appeared and the world was impressed. If his arm hurt, it turned out that Bai Yingying pinched him, and laughed, "Asshole, you are all crazy, now you know that there are people in the world who are more beautiful than me." "Impossible, she is not 1/10 as good as you," Zhang Zizai said hurriedly. In fact, he admitted that she was beautiful, but in his heart, another person was more perfect. "You are so bold," Bai Yingying made him laugh. "There are not many people in the world who would say such a thing against their will. It seems that everyone's eyes are focused on Xuanhuan. The specific details are probably to be announced by her." So at this time, she opened her red lips and said in a voice so soft that it makes people numb, "Welcome all the little geniuses to the Fallen Valley to participate in the assessment of the God King Palace. This year, the God King Palace will still only recruit 2 people. Which boy and girl can defeat the heroes and become famous all over the world? I will wait and see." Listening to her seductive voice, people's hearts were hot. However, at this time, the young people did not have much say. There were too many people, and their words could be swallowed by the sound of panting. Only the voice of the God Master continued to spread. She said in a gentle voice, "Today is the opening day of the Fallen Valley. This year, the old rules still apply. The first man and woman to cross the Fallen Valley can become a disciple of the God King's Palace. There are several levels and several completely different tests. Only the most talented and powerful people can pass all the tests and reach the end the fastest. So please remember that you must race against time." Yes, people felt that Xuanhuan's words seemed to be a reminder to themselves, and they all felt satisfied when they agreed. "However, since I am here to supervise this year, I will naturally add some fun to it. You must be careful, or you may fall into my trap. In order to encourage everyone, I heard that the fortune of the Fallen Valley this year is more than in previous years. Some of these fortunes, even if you fail to enter the Fallen Valley, can benefit your life and increase your hope of becoming a god." Such good news made the boys and girls feel completely excited. Their eyes were very fiery, waiting for the opportunity for Xuanhuan to announce the start. In order to make everyone more positive and to celebrate my first supervision of the God King Palace assessment, I decided that I would consider accepting 2 new disciples as my god disciples in the end. If you are interested in me, you must work hard. Xuanhuan smiled tenderly. Now the land in front of the entire Falling Valley was completely boiling, and people's eyes were bloodshot, obviously very excited. They all knew that Xuanhuan was a superb existence in the God King Palace with talent, status, and strength, and she was young and had a promising future. When she grows to the extreme, she may be a big figure in the God King Palace. If you can become her god disciple, receive her guidance, have her protection, and even get close to her network, it would be a great deal. Originally, some people didn't plan to enter the God King Palace, but now they are basically full of enthusiasm. No one would go against their future, and no one would go against the opportunity to be with the most beautiful woman in the God King Palace. Even women think it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For example, Bai Yingying burst into tears and said excitedly, "Although I still have several years, it seems that I can win this time." "Dream?" Zhang Zizai asked with a smile. "You are dreaming, huh?" While they were talking, Xuanyu had probably announced everything she should say, and did not give the other two ancient gods a chance to speak, but said, "Next, you will be supervised by me. The fallen mountain gate has been opened. Let's set off quickly. Remember the name of the first level, called Storm Road. In fact, the fallen mountain gate had been opened long ago. 200,000 people were scattered beside this huge mountain gate. Looking at the narrow sky in front of them, they were just waiting for an order. After Xuanyu nodded, in order to pass through the fallen valley for the first time, the young people started rushing forward like crazy. The fallen valley seemed to be getting narrower as you went back. Although there was a narrow sky in front, it was actually very wide. More than 200,000 people completely entered in just 30 breaths. Only those who held the God King order could pass through the mountain gate. Once the mountain gate was passed, the God King order disappeared. After all the participants had entered, Zhou Lingxian and Bai Qinghua closed the mountain gate and followed Xuanyu respectfully. This time, Xuanyu took the initiative to handle the assessment of the God King Palace, and they were just helping. It is said that if there are special circumstances, they will take action. "Miss Yanyu, do you think there will be real talents among this group of people?" Zhou Lingxian asked. "You will know by looking," Xuanyu responded with a smile, but in fact, she could feel that she was indifferent because she didn't like this boring way of chatting. "I think it's more mysterious, and it's completely different from the ones cultivated by the God King Palace since childhood, such as Miss Yanyu," Bai Qinghua said. "Oh, that means that if they have my cultivation resources, they will perform better than me at will," Xuanyu said with a smile. "That's definitely not the meaning. We know that no matter who gets Miss Yanyu's resources, it's impossible to be compared with you," Bai Qinghua said. He was not very good at speaking, but in front of Zhou Lingxian, he had to say a few more words to try to leave some impression in front of Xuanyu. While they were supervising from a high position, Zhang Ziyi was facing the first danger of the storm road. In front of them were countless roads leading to the front. This was the storm road, the first checkpoint. And on this storm road, there were tornadoes that could blow people away. There will be updates a little later, before 11:30. The fastest update reading, please bookmark this site to read the latest novels. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 752. In the checkpoints in front of the fallen valley, men and women did not seem to be separated, nor were individuals separated, so they could work as a team and help each other. Zhang Zizai knew that if he rushed forward alone, there might not be much hope. He thought it was better to proceed in a cycle, because he could guess that the really difficult test must be behind, and that kind of difficult test could definitely not be solved by running faster now. And he didn't have much ability to be stronger than others now, so he decided to walk and see. He wanted to enter the God King Palace, but he had to have the ability. The tornado on the storm road was really violent. Whether it was speed or power, it could be said to be a nightmare for more than 200,000 people. Zhang Zizai had just come in, and he could see someone being blown directly into the sky, and he couldn't get out of it with screams, and he didn't know where he fell. Be careful, when they just came in, they were very cautious in a group of 10. The team strength of the 10 of them was actually very strong, but even so, when they first came in, the tornado that rushed over the storm road almost swept all 10 of them in. Once rolled up, it would turn the world upside down, and even the most beautiful woman would probably be in a mess. Zhang Zizai looked forward and saw that in this storm road, there were tornadoes everywhere, some big and some small. Almost every moment, Someone could be seen being swept up, screaming and flying to who knows where. Many people came in together, but as soon as they arrived at the storm road, the God King Palace gave them a show of force. These tornadoes could tear all groups apart to the greatest extent. He looked into the depths of the storm road and found that the deeper he went, the more tornadoes there were, the denser they were, and the more violent they were. Some even showed colors directly. You can see that there are many wind blades sweeping in it. The blade-like wind cuts on the body and can tear people apart. It is not easy to cross the storm road. This is definitely a show of force. The young men and women who were full of vigor and vitality just now came in and saw so many people flying into the sky in a mess. Their faces changed drastically and were full of misery. Some of them were even scared and ran back. Bai Yingying and her friends were of good quality. After the initial chaos, they calmed down. "Come with me," she still had the demeanor of a leader. She led Zhang Zizai and the other four in front of them. It seemed that she was not going to be with Bai Yunjing and the others. However, when she looked back, she could see that Bai Yunjing and the others were still following them. The one named Yi Zhongyuan beside Bai Yunjing seemed to have a lot of opinions about us, and his eyes were quite hostile. Lan Kexi pointed to the young man who had been talking to Bai Yunjing. "I can see that the woman named Yan Qing is also hostile to Yingying. They can't hide their thoughts from others," Huang Yu sneered. "Don't pay attention to them, hurry up." Bai Yingying only knew that this was a good opportunity to get rid of them. She kept leading the charge forward. Zhang Ziyi and the others could only follow behind her, and Bai Yunjing and the others followed behind unwillingly. "You're still following us, you're really a follower." Bai Yingying was a little annoyed, and she sped up again, making it difficult for Qi Lian and the others to follow. These tornadoes are indeed fierce, and when they sweep across, it is easy to cut off the connection between the teams. Bai Yingying ran faster and faster, and it seemed that he was determined to get rid of Bai Yunjing. This is her temper. Zhang Zizai was just about to ask her to be more careful. After all, this storm road is still very dangerous, and the danger of rushing around like this is very high. At this moment, it was too late. A tornado suddenly rushed in front of her, swallowed Bai Yingying, who couldn't dodge in time, and then rushed through the crowd. Zhang Zizai saw that Bai Yingying had been swept away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yingying, she was the most concerned woman in the team. She was suddenly hit by a tornado, and several people looked anxious. Without saying a word, Bai Yunjing appeared in front of Qi Lian and the others. His face was very serious, and he said, "You don't pull her. She is hiding from you. How can we pull her?" Lan Kexi said. "I see that you both have divine rings, why don't you take me to find her?" Bai Yunjing said angrily. "She went in the opposite direction. Aren't you worried about wasting time?" Qi Lian asked. If Bai Yunjing had any ideas about the God King Palace, he should have gone forward. "It's not so easy to pass through the fallen valley." Bai Yunjing smiled coldly. After Bai Yingying was gone, his attitude became much colder. Huang Yu and the others were too lazy to bother. Their mission was to support Bai Yingying, so of course they had to find her at this time. "She is at the 4th level of the initial God realm. This tornado can blow her away, but it shouldn't hurt her," Zhang Zizai said. Everyone immediately turned around and walked back. The pressure was immediately reduced a lot because of the involvement of the God guiding ring. They could roughly identify Bai Yingying's position. "You care about her so much?" Zhang Zizai was a little curious. This Bai Yunjing could temporarily give up the opportunity to race against time. Is he a sentimental person? He was actually still observing, because he found that the faster the person rushed, the more likely he was to be blown back. Bai Yingying's strength was considered the top among the more than 200,000 people, but she was suddenly blown away. They moved forward quickly following the God guiding ring. During this period, tornadoes continued to sweep in, and Zhang Zizai basically avoided them successfully. However, at this moment, a very violent tornado suddenly rushed over. attacking from the side, and the power was very rough. Zhang Zizai directly used the earth escape magic to dodge it. What a close call! The storm came too fast, and he was almost swept away. Just after he dodged, he looked back and saw that there was a person standing next to him in Bai Yunjing's team. This person did not observe the coming of the tornado and was also swept away. Moreover, this tornado was very strong, and I am afraid that the woman's clothes were torn a lot. The woman who was swept away should be the woman named Yan Qing, who was very hostile to Bai Yingying. This was her bad luck, and Zhang Zizai did not think much about it and continued to move forward. Anyway, it had nothing to do with him. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted from behind, "Stop!" Zhang Zizai turned around in surprise, because the person who spoke had a bad tone. He looked back and saw that the person who scolded him was Yi Zhongyuan next to Bai Yunjing. He stared at him with a very gloomy face. Bai Yunjing next to him also had a bad face. The rest of the people had basically the same face as Yi Zhongyuan. As for Qi Lian, Lan Kexi, and Huang Yu, they were still standing next to Zhang Zizai at this time. What's the matter? Qi Lian thought Yi Zhongyuan was scolding them.